Rorschach, real name Walter Joseph Kovach, is a psychologically complex vigilante created by Alan Moore and Dave Gibbons in Watchmen, published by DC Comics in 1986. Born on March 21, 1940, in New York City to an abusive and neglectful mother, Sylvia Kovach, a prostitute who regularly exposed him to physical violence, Walter developed intense emotional repression and detachment from an early age. He never knew his father, and the emotional absence in his upbringing instilled in him a black-and-white moral view of the world. After violently retaliating against bullies by partially blinding one with a lit cigarette and brutally beating another, he was placed in the Lillian Charlton Home for Problem Children at age 11. There, psychologists noted his high intellect, introversion, and inability to form emotional bonds. At age 16, Walter took a job in a dressmaking factory where he encountered a shipment of a strange fabric made from two heat-sensitive latex sheets with viscous black and white fluids sandwiched between them. Fabric originally designed for a special dress for a socialite who later rejected it as ugly. Walter took the discarded fabric and fashioned it into a mask that visually embodied his binary moral philosophy, naming himself Rorschach after the inkblot tests he found meaningful due to their rejection of ambiguity. He began his career as a costumed crime fighter in 1964, initially working alongside other heroes such as Night Owl. However, his turning point came in 1975 while investigating the disappearance of 6-year-old Blair Roach. Upon discovering that the girl had been murdered by the abductor, Gerald Grice, Kovach burned the house down and executed Grice with a meat cleaver, abandoning his identity as Walter entirely and fully becoming Rorschach. From that moment, he no longer saw himself as a man in a mask. Rorschach was his true face. He adopted a new, zero-tolerance approach to crime, embracing violence, fear, and intimidation to punish those he deemed morally corrupt. Following the passage of the Keene Act in 1977, which outlawed costumed vigilantes, most heroes retired or began working for the government, but Rorschach refused. He continued operating illegally, investigating conspiracies and murdering criminals with relentless intensity. He kept meticulous handwritten journals chronicling his worldview and actions, believing that society was rotting from the inside. It is in these pages that he wrote the infamous words, "The streets are extended gutters, and the gutters are full of blood, and when the drains finally scab over, all the vermin will drown. The accumulated filth of all their sex and murder will foam up about their waists, and all the whores and politicians will look up and shout, 'Save us!' And I'll look down and whisper, 'No.'" This quote encapsulates Rorschach's nihilistic philosophy and his unwavering refusal to compromise with a world he sees as beyond redemption. Unlike other heroes, he believes the only response to moral decay is uncompromising justice, enforced personally and without exception. Throughout Watchmen, Rorschach remains the unyielding moral absolutist in a narrative that explores moral gray areas, and his rigid conviction ultimately sets him on a fatal path in the story's climax. His desire for justice doesn't fit in the universe he lives in. This moral absolute in Rorschach leads Dr. Manhattan to a realization that injustice in their world would bring peace. Manhattan disintegrates Rorschach in a tragic moment, extinguishing the world's scales of justice. But nonetheless, peace is restored in the world. Did Rorschach sacrifice himself? No. His murder brew peace.